Hello again, Charles Hancock here. I'm here today on request of some people that are friends and viewers of mine to make a video about Native Americans and Native American tribes to inform and to straighten out some big stereotypes. It is 4 o'clock in the morning here in Richmond, Virginia, in the U.S., and so I'm up a little early, but I figured what better time to talk about Native Americans um, than today. Well, the first thing I wanted to talk a little bit about um, is some of the stereotypes, because that's what most of the questions I've received are about. Or most of the things that people ask me about are stereotypes or misinformation that are given to people every day and taught in schools even. Most Native American people prefer to be called by their tribe. If somebody's going to tell somebody I'm Native American, I'd refer to them to, if they're going to say that, just say it initially. Refer to me, they say Charles is Monacan Indian or Tuscarora Indian, or, you know, he is Monacan or Tuscarora. And if people ask what that is, you can say Indian tribes or Native American tribes. I don't take offense to Indian, and most Indians shouldn't, because the story that we're taught in school is that Columbus thought he was going to India. He saw these people, figured they were Indians. Not correct. Somebody made that up. In Columbus's diaries, he wrote that they were people of God. In Spanish, they shortened that to Indios, in God, people of God, and it became Indian. Native American, if you're born here, you're a Native American just as much as I am. The second thing I'm most commonly asked about is mascots. I personally don't take any offense to mascots being called Braves, Indians, Warriors, Chieftains. I prefer not to be called Redskin, but I find it a point of pride that a team wants to be named after something that has to do with Native Americans. I just ask that they ask permission if they're going to use a certain person or a certain tribe. But a lot of Native Americans do, because in the past we were represented inappropriately and racist like. So they prefer not to be named after teams named after them. Out of the top 10 names used most popularly by sports teams, all of them are animals of prey except for I think number 3, which was Braves or slash Warriors, and number 8, which was Chiefs slash Indians, which means they want to strike fear in their opponent. They're going to use something that, you know, has a feeling of fear, and commonly Native Americans have that fearful presence because of what people misunderstand. Alright, I'd really like to knock out a few of these pretty quickly. These are ones that I was asked specifically to answer by one of my viewers. He asked, number 1, do Native Americans all use smoke signals? That's probably most popularized in cartoons. Um, Hanna-Barbera cartoons, Disney cartoons, whatever, you'll see Native American characters using smoke signals, and the smokes will go up in the air and a word will pop up or a picture will pop up. Smoke signals were used typically by Native American tribes out west, Navajo, Ute, the California tribes. Those tribes typically used smoke signals more commonly than the other tribes of the U.S. It was a very limited language, kind of like shorthand, because it's not a matter of shorts and longs like Morse code. It was more like a language. I guess it was kind of a code also, but again, it wasn't typical for all tribes to use it. Second of all, I was asked if they robbed trains, like you see in the movies. That also was not a common occurrence. It happened a few times that I know of, but you'd be surprised, there was also a lot of times where people robbed trains dressed as Native Americans. That way it would be put on them and they could get away with the robbery. The next thing I was asked about was, did they commonly shoot people off their horses? Horses were a major mode of transportation. Again, that was out west. It happened everywhere in the country, I imagine, but I guess it was just as common as a drive-by shooting or shooting at somebody on a bike or in a car nowadays. So yeah, that happened, and not as popular as you see in the movies, though, I imagine. This one kind of is embarrassing, and I'm gonna look like an idiot doing this, but he was asking me also if Native Americans did the la 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 thing. It's embarrassing to do that. No, the wooing, or what anybody would like to call it, was not typical. Most commonly, that sound was not accomplished by batting the hand over the mouth like that. It was actually a vocal technique, and they'd make the vibrato in their voice. More commonly, it was used in a war call, or typically in music. Not as prevalent as you'd see it in the movies, and most of the time it was a hooping and hollering, just a, any kind of hooping and hollering you do at a baseball game. It was just the sound of excitement for the time. And the last thing was scalping, which I imagine a lot of people have misconceptions about, because you see in movies, they cut off this perfect circle around somebody's head and take it off. It actually started with the white folks, the white people, and it got the Native American situation, as it was called, was getting pretty heavy out west, and they started offering money to return a scalp of a Native American, because in Native American cultures and a lot of the Western Native American cultures, the hair is a symbol of longevity, and typically tribes grew their hair long unless they were grieving or something of that nature. Then they would cut their hair for that reason and then grow it long again until they were grieving again. So it was an offensive thing to cut their hair off and leave it scarred so the hair cannot return. The gruesome truth is, normally they would cut the forehead about 4 to 5 inches, grab the flap of skin and pull. So whatever came off, came off. And it was offensive to Native American tribes. Because of the outpouring of people doing this, because you could return these scalps for money at the time. It was a point of pride for white folks to return some Native American scalps and get some dough. But because of that, Native American tribes started doing it. They didn't realize the non-offensive hair removal, but they did realize the damage that you were scarred by a Native American. And of course, American history doesn't want to say it's our fault that happened. It's taught in schools, and people are under the belief that scalping is a Native American thing, and that's not the way it was. And it's a shame for me to really even think that. Commonly, people misconstrue headdresses. You see these long, feathery headdresses, such as this one. But typically, that wasn't common. It was common out west. Again, it's another Western culture thing. And what we have to understand, especially if you're watching from another country that doesn't know much about Native Americans, is that the Western Native American cultures are probably the strongest in their history, because as tolerance came about for the Native American tribes, these tribes were least affected were out west. So their culture tends to be the most popular culture, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But it wasn't very common. There are many other types of headdresses, which I'd like to show you some clips of right now. The chief ones are going to be the first couple, and then I'll show you, there'll be some other footage of other ones for you.